Module 4, Lesson 13. Our objective today is to multiply unit fractions by unit fractions. Unit fractions are fractions that have a 1 in the numerator. So we have 1/3, 1/5, 1/2. Those are unit fractions again because they have a 1 in the numerator. Here's the first problem that we are looking at. Half of 1/4 pan of brownies equals blank pan of brownies. We'll be using an area model to show our thinking, and we will also write a multiplication sentence. For the area model, we'll draw a rectangle to represent 1 pan of brownies, and we will label it. And that's why we write a 1 right here to represent 1 pan of brownies. But the problem says half of, and then so that's 1/2 of, and then it says 1/4 pan of brownies. That's what we're going to use first to be able to divide our area model. And then so we're dividing our area model. It says 1/4 pan of brownies. We'll divide our area model by drawing vertical lines into 4 parts. And in this case, it says half of 1/4 of brownies, meaning we are only looking at one of those parts. So that shaded amount currently represents 1/4 of a pan of brownies. Now, the problem still says, though, half of 1/4 pan of brownies. So, for our area model, we will continue by looking at 1/2, and 1/2 as a fraction is 1/2. Instead of drawing vertical line, we will use a horizontal line. In this case, since we're looking at 1/2, we are dividing the model into 2 parts. Now, I will label that as well. We are only looking at 1/2 of it. So here is the 1/2 that we are looking at. And I will also shade that in. That is 1/2 of that original 1/4. So that was the 1/4 to begin with. And then I just took a half of the 1/4. Now, if we look at that, this is only one part of the whole, and it's one part of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, half of 1/4 of a pan of brownies is 1/8 of a pan of brownies. The equation that matches this is 1/2 times 1/4 equaling 1/8. So this right here is the equation that matches the area model. As you are drawing area models to represent this multiplication, please make sure to label correctly. Here I have 1/5 of 1/3, and I will draw an area model to show my thinking. And so it says 1/5 of 1/3. 1/5 of 1/3. So it's actually saying I should take 1/5 of 1/3. So I should start with 1/3 first. And in doing so, I will divide my area model into, it's not one part, it would be 3 parts to represent 1/3. And I will draw vertical lines to do so, and I will label it. So we have 1/3 of my whole so far, and I want to only look at 1/5 of that 1/3. So from this 1/3 that is within my area model now, I only want to look at 1/5 of it. So to look at 1/5 of it, I will have to divide that 1/3 into 5 parts. And I'll do so within my area model by drawing 4 lines to divide it into 5 parts. So now this 1/3 is now divided into 5 parts, and I only want to look at one of those parts, or 1/5 of that 1/3. And then so I am only looking right here for the 1/5 of 1/3, or what it is that I have shaded in. So I have 1 within my numerator for sure, and the total number of parts is 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 3 times 5, which is 15. 1/5 of 1/3 we would write as a multiplication sentence as 1/5 times 1/3 equaling 1/15. Okay, it is your turn to try. We have a half of 1/3 pan of brownies, and it's asking you to figure out what fraction of a pan of brownies that you would have there. Use an area model, and then also write out an equation that would match your area model. Go ahead and pause that video and carefully work it out. So here we have our area model. The whole thing is 1. We're looking at 1/2 of 1/3 of a pan of brownies. So we will start with 1/3 of the pan of brownies. We have divided that into 3 parts for 1/3, and we're only looking at 1/3 there. Then we are using a horizontal line to divide it into half, because we're only looking at 1/2 of that 1/3. Which means that this little shaded area now represents 1 out of those 6 parts. So I will write my answer into my problem here. And for our equation, it says 1/2, or half of 1/3. So it's half of, which is a multiplication sign, of 1/3. 1/2 times 1/3, and as I stated before, that answer is 1/6. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 3 is 6. Check over your work, that you have the equation written correctly, and also your area model. So, one last look at this. If we say it's 1/4 of 1/2, for instance, 1/4 of 1/2 of a pan of brownies, we're looking at area models, and then we're also making up equations to go ahead and match not only the area model, but also match what it is that this is asking us, that expression there. So we have 1/4 times 1/2, which would equal 1/8. And of course we can show that with our area model as well. And we want to make sure that we properly label our area model and properly set them up. We have 1/4 of 1/2, or 1/4 times 1/2. So we start with 1/2 first in dividing up our area model into 2 parts. And then so this represents 1/2, whereas the whole model is 1. Now as we continue to look at that, that shaded in represents that 1/2. Now we only want to look at 1/4 of the 1/2. And then so out of this 1/2, we only want to look at 1/4 of it. So we continue with our area model in drawing horizontal lines and 3 horizontal lines to represent those 4 parts. Now that 1/2 has been separated into fourths, and we are only looking at one of those fourths, as indicated also by my labels within the diagram. Lastly, it's those shaded areas that are shaded twice in both directions, where it matches up there. That's the number that I count, so that's why that numerator is 1, and of that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 parts, and that's why that denominator is 8. Read this whole equation with me. 1/4 times 1/2 is equal to 1/8. There's the 1/4 within my model. There's the 1/2 within my model. And again, there is the 1 out of the 8 parts. So that's not only area models, but also equations. And that's how it is that you can go about multiplying unit fractions. Again, those fractions where it is that they have a 1 in the numerator. Both of those, again, are unit fractions. And in fact, even our answer will be that unit fraction.